If all you want to do is rotate an item, you can click your right mouse button and set the mouse to the rotate function. Then, whenever you click an item, it will rotate around that particular location. Furthermore, you can move the item as you are rotating it. Notice that the lower left corner of the MillWrite screen shows 3 mouse button icons and what each button will do if you click it. The right mouse button will let you move the item. So I will click the right mouse button and move the position of this arrow. When I am finished moving the item, I click the right mouse button again, and then I resume rotating it. The item rotates around the location that you click. Since I just clicked the point of the arrow, it's now rotating around that point. And if I click the right mouse button, I can shift the position of the entire arrow. And then if I click the left button, I terminate the rotate function. Since I just clicked the inside corner of the arrow, it's now rotating from that location. I will undo the rotations by clicking the undo button. I could also have pressed Ctrl-Z on the keyboard. Although it is easy to rotate an item with the rotate function that the mouse menu offers, if you want precision in the rotation and location, MillWrite provides 4 other rotation functions that are more useful. However, these functions are a bit more complicated, and if you don't use them very often, you can forget how to use them. The function that is probably the easiest to understand and use is the one in the lower left corner of this menu that shows Rotate and Move. This video will show how to use that particular function. These 4 functions require you to first select the items that you want to rotate. In this example, I want to rotate the arrow, so the first step is to select that arrow. There are different ways to select an item. If the mouse is showing the words Select Item, you could double-click the left mouse button. Or you could draw a box around the item. In this example, I'll double-click the left button, which will switch to the selection mode. Then I can either click the arrow or draw a box around it. At the top of the screen, it shows that one item has been selected. Now I want to select the rotate function. I can either use the mouse to click the rotate button, or since the R is a different color than the rest of the letters, the R key is the shortcut key, so I could press R on the keyboard. Either way, that will bring up the rotate menu. For this example, I want to select the rotate and move function. I could either click it with the left mouse button, or since the M is a different color, I could press M on the keyboard. The right side of the screen changes to show the data entry fields and buttons for the rotate function. The concentric round circles are the center point of rotation. The solid black circle shows the lever that you can drag with the mouse to rotate the items. Notice that the lever button is blinking blue. That shows you that the lever is the active data field at this moment. That means that if you click the mouse in the drawing, it will pick up the XY coordinates at that location and set the lever to that location. Or you can press and hold down the left mouse button while it is in the drawing in order to drag the lever. Right now, I am dragging the lever. Notice that the angle is incrementing in 5 degrees. That is because the snap value is set to 5 degrees, and the snap checkbox has been checked. Unchecking the snap box will cause that snap value to disappear and allow the angle to become anything. And checking it will once again bring back the snap value. I will leave it unchecked, and now when I drag the lever, the angle is no longer incrementing in 5 degrees. I want the arrow inside the rectangle, but as you can see, no matter how I rotate the arrow, it does not move into the rectangle. All it does is rotate around its center of rotation. I need to move the center of rotation into the rectangle. I can either click the center button and cause it to start blinking blue, or I can move the mouse over those concentric circles in the drawing, press and hold the left mouse button, and drag the center of rotation to some other location. If I move the center of rotation to the lower left corner of the arrow, then it rotates around that corner. If I move the center of rotation to the tip of the arrow, then it rotates around that tip. I want the arrow in the rectangle and pointing to the upper left corner, so I will move the center of rotation to the corner of the rectangle. However, when I rotate the lever, the arrow rotates around that center of rotation, but never gets into the rectangle in the proper orientation. In order to solve this problem, I have to use the data field that is referred to as a handle. You can visualize the handle as being similar to the handle of a suitcase. A suitcase handle can be in the center of the suitcase, or it can be along one of the sides of the suitcase. When you set the handle of an item, you are telling MillWrite to pick the item up at that location and place it at the center of rotation. The best way to understand this is to experiment with it and watch the result. I will click the handle button so that it is blinking blue in order to make it the active data field. I will then move the mouse over the tip of the arrow. The mouse icon will switch to showing on a node, or perhaps start node or end node, when the mouse is hovering directly over a node of a polyline. I then click the left button to set that node as the handle. This tells MillWrite to pick the arrow up at that handle location and place it onto the center of rotation. Now when I rotate the lever, the arrow is rotating around the corner of the rectangle, which is what I want. To help you understand the concept of the handle, I will move it to a different location. I will click the handle data field to make it active, and when it is blinking blue, I will click an inside corner of the arrow. This tells MillWrite to pick the arrow up at that corner and place it onto the center of rotation. Now when I move the lever, the arrow is rotating around that particular node. I can also move the handle by moving the mouse over it, pressing and holding down the left mouse button, and dragging the handle. Notice how the arrow is moving as I move the handle. I will leave the handle at the upper left corner of the arrow. Now when I drag the lever around, the arrow rotates around that particular corner. I can also change the rotational angle by typing an angle into the angle data field, or by clicking or dragging the bar that is underneath the angle data field. If I click on one side of that bar, it increases the angle, and if I click on the other side, it decreases it. Furthermore, if I click the angle data field so that the word angle is blinking blue, I can then click a line in the drawing, and MillWrite will use the angle of that line. A line has two ends, so it can be considered going in two different directions. MillWrite will calculate the angle according to which end you are closer to. As I click near the end of this line, I get an angle of about 219 degrees, and if I click the other side, I get about 39 degrees. This is an easy way to rotate something to the same angle that something else is already set to. When I am finished fooling around and have it set correctly, I click the OK button, and the arrow is rotated and moved into position, and it remains selected in case I want to do some other operations with it.